We all want to be happier, but how do we get there? First, we start by realizing happiness is not a destination. Being happy consists of micro action steps every single day. I'm your host, Brittany King, and I'm here to guide you along the way. All right, Sanja, it's time. It's time to share. It's time to share your incredible journey and your story. There's just so much amazingness that has unfolded since we have met. And I think truly one of my favorite things about coaching are the synchronicities, and how we met was so synchronous. It was so crazy how aligned it was and how we were supposed to meet at that time and then end up working together. So I just can't wait to share all about all the things.
Yeah, all the things. I'm like, the minute you said that, I was like, oh, I almost forgot about how we met and all of how that week came about. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Well, and what
Yeah.
was crazy was I almost didn't come to that class. So, little backstory, Sanja is a dancer with, and I do say dancer because like I've seen the moves and you've got them, girlfriend. With
Thanks.
Alyssa, who actually used to be a client of mine. So Alyssa started to teach a dance cardio class, and Sanja was at the class, and Alyssa had asked me if I'd come and just lead some breath work at the end of the class. And I remember you coming up to me and being like, I don't know what just happened, but I think we're supposed to work together. And you were like, are you taking clients and this? And I was like, it was so synchronistic. And I truly almost didn't make it because I was sick leading up to, it was my birthday week. So there was just all these things that like were kind of getting in the way of me going, but I figured it all out. I felt better and I showed up and then we met.
Yes. And I was working on that artist way, and I was working on the week that just was focusing on synchronicities, and breath work kept coming up multiple times, and I never heard of it before kind of that time frame. I don't know. I don't remember where it was coming up for me, but I told you I was looking the week before. I was like, maybe breath work is something that can like help me, but it just came out of nowhere. It's not anything I ever wanted to do before or like thought to do before. So when you came in and did it, and then that feeling, and yeah, just that whole experience, I was like, oh, I'm and I'm paying attention to the synchronicities now. So I'm just gonna go up to her. And that's not something I would normally do. I'm a little kind of more reserved than that. Um, so I don't normally just go up to people like I did after that dance class too. I was like, I'm just gonna do it.
It's amazing. Like I remember that. I had the chills because I deeply believe in synchronicities. And the fact that you had just read that chapter and like whatever reason breathwork was coming up for you. And I led something like a very like simple breathing technique and a meditation at the end. It wasn't any of the type of breathwork classes that I lead. So it was just so wild how impactful it was. And it led to us working together. So you came up to me after the class, but then we obviously like had scheduled a consult to make sure we were a good fit. So what made you say yes to coaching, and like why was it the time to do coaching?
Um, that's a kind of like a more difficult question because I don't really know how to explain it. I was terrified, and then I was like, I don't like even know this person. I don't know what this is going to entail, but because I was in a car accident exactly a year ago, I just knew that I had to do things different in my life moving forward. I had just gotten back into dancing and doing things, and I was just like, I'm gonna just say yes to things that typically I would say no to and scare me. And after we talked, I still had just like a good feeling about you, but I was definitely on the fence of if I was going to do it or
Yeah. Yeah. Which, like,
not.
first I just want to highlight a year ago, you were in a really bad car accident. And that's kind of what led you into what made you curious about breath work, because there was something to
Yes.
the way that you handled your breath in the accident. And then, fast forward
Yes.
to when you reached out to me. But I'm curious about like what got you over the fence, because I think a lot of
I forgot
people
that too.
do come to coach, like they're interested in coaching and then they're on the fence, they're not quite sure, like, what does this mean? Like, what are we going to be doing? And then opening up, to a stranger, can feel really uncomfortable as well. So what got you over the fence? I'm so curious.
um, so that, because I'm sure, as you know now, I tend to sometimes make like impulsive decisions, but I kind of was like reserved of it because I overthink things a lot too. So I was kind of in this place where I'm like, I'm not going to overthink things. I'm just going to say yes to whatever feels good. But I was still at a point where I would say yes to something like I signed up with you, and then I think I had like 2 days worth of anxiety about it. Like my stomach was hurting, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I think the thing that pushed me over the edge for like for certain was I had we had the discussion and we kind of went over my schedule and I had a little bit of flexibility with work. And we talked and I said, "Yeah, I just need to think about it a little bit." And then literally the next day, my manager had a meeting with us and kind of that flexibility that I thought I had disappeared. So I was like, "Okay, here's I'm already having anxiety about it. I'm going to tell her that I can't I can't make those times work anymore. And, that just means it wasn't meant to be." So I just took that as kind of a sign because I was going to, I didn't think we were going to work together after that. So I was like, I'm just going to take that as a sign. It wasn't supposed to be. That's fine. Like, I'll just look for the next thing. And then you were like, that's okay. We can figure it out. And I was like, oh, well, I wasn't expecting that. So I guess now I just have to say yes.
You were like, oh, perfect. This is
Oh,
my way out. And
yeah.
then
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And I think, that happens so often when especially when we make an investment in ourselves, it's so easy to be like, what did I just do? Like completely like doubt ourselves and our ability to do it and to follow through. But you took a chance on yourself by making an investment in yourself. You said yes to this version of you. So tell me a little bit about where you are now. So there's that moment of like, oh, the schedule's not going to line up. It's not going to work out. And then, obviously we made it work. And so you were like,
Yeah.
okay, we're going in, we're going all in. Um, Share a little bit about where you're at, what you've experienced since saying yes to yourself and coaching.
Um, I think in the last year, especially I think since we've met, I lived my life more fully than I have in the last like decade.
Mm.
So that's probably the biggest thing. But I remember for so long, I would think that um, other people just had some like secret to life that I didn't have. And I was constantly like, I was, I was like, why does everybody have to gatekeep how to like live life? I don't know. I don't know how to live my life. I don't know how to like make decisions. I don't know how people just um start their own businesses and like do what they want to do. And I didn't know that it was just you just do it. Like I thought all these people were just smarter than me or they had different experiences or they had somebody that like told them this secret that I thought everybody was keeping from me.
The secret is there is no secret.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think just realizing that it's all just I've been waiting for something that just was never gonna come. That was not there. Um, and just realizing that it was all already like in me. That was, I think, my biggest change of the year.
That it existed
Mm.
inside of you.
Yeah.
So because, just going off of that, it's like a lot of the experience or outcomes in coaching tend to be more intangible, right? It's like the things that you can't like physically touch or have like the hard evidence of. But I'm curious about how you would describe your intangible outcomes and results that you've
Mm.
experienced since saying yes to yourself.
Well, at first I thought when I signed up with you that we were gonna just have like a set plan. I'm gonna have a business goal. This is how it's going to be, and that's just what I'm gonna get out of it. That's like actually what I thought I would get out of it. The inside stuff um, that I didn't expect or that I didn't really know how to explain was there was like one night specifically that I remember I was like waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning and having just like a lot of anxiety that would keep me up. I didn't know how to get through it. My heart would be pounding. Um, I just couldn't get back to sleep, and I just had this feeling of like impending doom. Couldn't put my finger on it. And one night, like it happened, and I just automatically did something that we discussed probably like a few weeks before that, and it just went away, and I fell back asleep. And I was like, oh, well, that was like a lot of years of my life, just like having this middle of the night panic for no reason.
Mhm.
um, so that was like a big thing. I didn't expect the like perspective shift. I just like look at things differently.
Mm.
I look at my relationships with people differently. I think I have more patience with other people and myself. So yeah, just
Mm.
a lot of just like what I didn't really expect.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an amazing thing because I think that's something that happens with coaching is often such a perspective shift. And it's not that you necessarily have had to undergo so much change as much as like just the beliefs about yourself that changes the perspective. The beliefs about
Mhm.
yourself change how you actually see the world. And I got to witness that like
Yeah.
firsthand with you.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend once. I was like, I don't think that I even know how to be who I was before. Because it's like I can't unsee what I've seen.
Right? It completely changes you. Like you're just like
Yeah.
you can't unsee it and then also you can't unfeel it. Like that's the shift that you felt.
Yeah.
Even just being able to, manage feeling anxiety when you wake up at 3 a.m. The 3 a.m. Wake up is
Yeah.
brutal, right? And your
It's
mind
true.
starts going and you start thinking about all these things that you don't want to think about. But
Yeah.
how did it feel to know that you had the tools to manage that?
I at first it kept surprising me over and over again. Every time I did it, I was like, "Oh, I've never done that before." And then it was just like kind of thinking like that thought how did it take me so long to just know that it was something so simple to just like just such a simple perspective change that I would have just felt better from, had I just known it sooner. I was like, who knew? Who knew that something just like breathing
Like
could
something
just
so simple. Well, I think
like
that's the challenge in it. It
such
is so simple that we often disregard how powerful the simple techniques are.
oh yeah, like the weird stuff that I would do to try to like avoid that feeling. Well, for one, try to avoid it. And that I think was a big thing I missed was the, the not avoiding the feelings, but the feeling the feelings, because then it does kind of go away. So I was like,
Mm.
oh, I didn't know. I didn't know that it could just go away if you just felt it.
Right? It's like, where has this been our whole life? Where, we didn't
Yeah.
learn that. It's not a skill set. It's a skill for sure, being able to feel
Hmm.
emotions. And we haven't learned it. And that's,
Hmm.
when people come to coaching, they come, like you said, you came for like the goal and the plan. And what you don't realize is the internal work that it takes to start taking action on a plan and a goal. And then you start realizing like the goal does like the process of getting to the goal is almost more important than the goal itself.
One, yeah, 1000%. Because I'm not even, um, I've extended my internal deadline several times now because of just shifts that have happened. And I'm not even focused on that anymore. I'm more focused on like how I'm interacting with the process, I
Mhm.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the tangible stuff then. So we talked a little bit about the intangible of just the um, feeling your feelings, the shift when you wake up feeling anxious, knowing that you have the ability to move that anxiety, calm your mind, calm your body, your nervous system. But what are some tangible things like that you've taken away from coaching?
Um, Really just like I think there was that one day where I was super upset because I wrote down, by April 1st, I'm gonna have this, this, and this. And they were all just like, my house will be remodeled and sold, and I'm gonna have this part of my business completely done, and all of these things that I said were gonna be done, and then they weren't done. And previously, I would have been like, well, I missed my deadline. I guess I'm just never gonna do it again. And you were like, well, what happens if you just change your deadline? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I never thought about that. I just never, I didn't know I was allowed to.
Yeah, just, you needed like a little
Yeah.
permission. You needed a permission slip because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you're just
So,
gonna let go of all the work and the progress you've made towards the goal because this
yeah.
arbitrary date that you chose to have things done by were not 100% complete
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. So, because you said I can change my own deadlines, I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. And it kind of pushed me to, uh, I guess, not having that limitation on myself. I ended up making just really diving in. I made the business plan. I've reached out to, talk about my bank accounts, started the LLC process. Like, I've done a ton of tangible things, but it wasn't on some, I didn't feel any pressure doing it. I kind of enjoyed the process because I wasn't like, oh my gosh, this has to be done by Sunday or I'm never going to do it again.
Mhm.
Which, yeah. So yeah, I'm still just taking my time with it because some weeks I want to do more than others. And I'm just like letting myself be okay with it. And those weeks that I don't want to put so much into it, I've noticed that things do come up that have, I'm like, oh, so this is the reason why I was just like, this is too much this week. Because my energy was just better spent on, family or just personal things that needed my attention, where before I would have kind of ignored those aspects. I would have maybe even pushed aside the like people who needed me in those moments because I had like deadlines to meet.
Mhm.
And I I'm actually I thought I would be more focused on like the work part, but I'm actually more focused on my relationships instead, if that
Mm.
makes
Yeah. So good.
sense.
I do also want to ask about the progress you made on the goal, the business idea,
Mhm.
because I know when you came to me, you never really got past the ideation. I don't even know if you even made it to the ideation stage. I think you didn't make it past the, oh, I have this idea, I have this dream, I have this goal I've thought about for a long time. And then
Mhm.
it's just kind of stopped there.
Yeah, so I do have more of the plan done. I kind of started trying to build a website by myself, but I'm just not a website developer, I've learned. So I am going and meeting with um a friend's husband out of state in a couple months, and he does website design. So we're gonna actually work together on that. I do have all my brands lined up that I do plan on. I started reaching out to some of them to see if it's something I can use their brands in my shop. I haven't heard back from anybody yet, but I do have a name. I have, yeah, I feel like I have a lot. I didn't think I had that much more done since we talked, but I kind of do. I have a meeting with my accountant in a few weeks to make sure that I have everything set up for the LLC and the tax stuff that she sent me. So she did email me some forms that I've been kind of working on filling out. I think that's where I got a little bit overwhelmed and I was like, oh, I'm gonna stop for a minute, but
It
then I was
shows
like,
though so
it's
deeply
gonna
how
get
like
progress.
there was so much resistance and to even making it past that idea stage, and look how much progress that you've made since setting the goal and getting out of your own way and doing the like much deeper belief work to get past that resistance.
Hmm.
So good. So, so good. So, I'm curious, like I know obviously there was an element of you not knowing me. Obviously there were certain things that came up for you that made you hesitant, but was there anything in particular that was like holding you back that you're so glad that you didn't make that the reason why you didn't do coaching?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the biggest hurdle was the one that we kind of knocked out the quickest and again changed my perspective on everything, but it was financial and just spending money on myself like that. And it wasn't the most ideal time for me to be doing that since I just came out of not working after having that car accident. Um, and it would have held me back for sure had it been even 6 months prior to that. I would not have, I would have let that stop me. But I was just like, I did just reach that point of like, if I don't change something and think I'm going to be stuck like this, and I need to just get out of where I'm stuck. So that's what gave me the most anxiety about it. That's what almost stopped me from it. Um, but yeah, I think that's what I was looking for, any little sign that like, oh, I know I told myself that I'm gonna say yes to opportunities, but if something comes up, like my work schedule changing, that just must mean a sign that don't be stupid and don't spend money on something you don't know what you're signing up for.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so when I did, again, I surprised myself because when you said that, it took me so off, like I wasn't expecting it. And then I think I just agreed to it right then and there because in my head, I was like, it just came out. And then after that, I was like, I don't just normally when I like make a purchase, especially something for myself that's like not like a necessary purchase, not like, oh, my AC broke and I just have to spend all my money on a new AC unit. Um, it's something that I would be like, oh, I have to think about it. And then every day I'd probably think about it for like 2 weeks and then be like, yeah, no, I can't do that. But I think just like the saying yes right away. And then we kind of worked through some of those financial blocks that I had and why I felt that way. And because I did that, it's changed the way money's worked for me like this entire rest of the year. And I
Yeah,
just like don't even know how to explain it. It just don't I don't know how to explain it.
I love that you brought that up because I think that is one of the things I've noticed with coaching. It's like a lot of times when we're presented with like making a decision or it's an investment, all of our stuff comes up. And my job as a coach is to help you make a decision that feels good for you and to help coach you on anything that might be feeling like sticky or not good. And it's so interesting that you said that is like because we were able to address the beliefs around money specifically, in the beginning, how it changed your relationship with money the rest of the coaching experience and then forever, right? Like, because now you have that embodied experience. I'm so glad that you brought that up because that is something that I think is very intangible with coaching that you really, like you said, you're like, I can't really explain it, but like I noticed such a shift in my relationship with money ever since doing that coaching around it.
Mhm.
And it is really intangible, but it's like, it's the gift that keeps on giving because once you start working on dismantling those beliefs and really understanding them, that's when things start to shift, specifically around money.
Mm. Yeah. Especially because I think one of the reasons that I just immediately said yes was because, and as we discussed, the day of my accident, I was supposed to be getting a facial, but I canceled it last minute because I didn't want to spend that money on myself. And that was just like, you know, $75 for a facial. I was like, I don't deserve to
Mm,
spend $75 on myself today. What if my car breaks or what if something breaks and that $75 could go towards, something else. I don't
mhm,
even know anything else, but not something for me to enjoy or for me to relax or me to treat myself to. And I would have been getting a facial, well, instead of being in that intersection. And that was when I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to say no to those things that are for myself anymore. And it's kind of also how I ended up doing the little retreat that I just did because
mm,
I did the same thing. I was like, "Oh, this is a lot of money." Like when it came up and all the fees and taxes, and I was like, "Ugh, this kind of a lot of money. Like I don't need to be spending this kind of money on this." And I was like, "Whoa, a year ago you said you were not going to do that anymore. So you're just going to click book now and be done with it." And I booked it with the option that you could not get any refunds because I'm
mm,
like, I'm not going to even like give myself the option to back out of it.
mm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, what a shift in, going from not feeling deserving or worthy of spending the money on yourself and investing in yourself to totally doing a 180 and scheduling stuff for you, intentionally investing in yourself and really just continuing to
Mhm.
show up for yourself and living your life.
Yeah. It was I think the shift is like it does. It almost feels like the more I was like holding on to money and not spending it on anything but the necessities, because that's all it was for so long. Just food, house stuff, just necessities. It's like almost like the less you feel like you have. And then the minute I felt like I did this coaching for myself, I started doing more dance classes. I started doing more things that I enjoyed doing and just spending money. And it didn't even have to be a lot of money. It'd just be like, oh, there's this, you know, $5 community class down the street, which before it's like, well, $5 is $5. And now it's like, oh, it just looks fun. So I'm just going to do it. So you almost like feel like you have more when it never actually changed. I
Mhm.
didn't have any significant shifts in money.
Externally, maybe like the circumstance,
Yes,
but
yeah,
internally you did because that's
yeah,
why you are in this feeling in this place of abundance.
yes. So that's why I'm like, I can't really describe it. It's just there, normal.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's an embodiment. So good. Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
it's so good. Okay, so is there any other things that you want to share or anything else that's come up since you started your coaching journey and are where you are now?
No, just, I mean, I think we stopped, we finished our work a few months ago, and it's at least 2 or 3 times a week that a situation comes up that I catch myself interacting with differently than I would have
Mm,
prior to coaching, that I'm just like, that makes me think of you. It makes me think of like some little random thing that we might have mentioned one day. Um, I think just like the flexibility that you had with me for the whole thing. Like I said, I was like, I want to start a business. She says she does business stuff and maybe we'll do some of that breath stuff on the side. And but that breath stuff is just gonna be to be like, oh, what's your business gonna be? And the fact that the biggest changes were just so much bigger than just starting a business. I was just like understanding that how, yeah, you gave me the secret that I thought everybody was holding away from me.
It's like you are the answer.
Yeah.
That is the
Yes.
secret, is you don't need to change yourself, become a different, like you are the answer. And that's, what my job is, to hold up the mirror and be like, hey, you
Yeah.
hold the key. You have the power. I don't have the answers for you, but I can hold the space for you to make those connections within yourself. And you were so brilliant at doing that. And that's why you've experienced so many shifts, is because you showed up, you did the work, you're so reflective. You started developing even more practices outside of what like the coaching was. And, it's all just coming back to you. And that will continue to come back to you because you are continuing to embody the work. So thank you for saying yes to yourself. Thank you for doing this work, because it ripples into every relationship, every interaction, everything that you do. And not to mention like the idea that you're bringing into the world, like that's going to ripple into that as well. So thanks for saying yes to coaching and yourself. It's been so much fun, such a pleasure and honor to get to work with you and get to
Thank you.
help you see how incredible and all the potential that you have. So,
Thank you.
yeah. Any last thoughts or words
Yeah.
before we wrap up?
Well, just thank you for everything. Thank you for I'm I don't like know how many times I think I don't know if I went a session without crying.
We love the tears. I know everyone's like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry for crying. I'm like, why? It's good. We've gotten to some
Yeah.
truth within ourselves. So
Yeah. I
good.
was like, oh my gosh, one of these days she's gonna get so annoyed and be like, you just not cry for once.
Never.
Um,
You will never hear me say
but
that.
just like thank you for having that safe space for me. I those are spaces I haven't ever experienced. So, yeah, just thank you for all of that and making me see that it was okay to um, just kind of show up as I was and show up where I was and just like I feel I was able to just show up as my authentic self. And you were a stranger, so I don't know why, but there's just some quality that you have that just made me know that it was okay. So
Hmm.
thank you.
Gosh, you're gonna make me cry over here. Now I'm gonna be the one on this end crying. You're welcome. It's my
It's only
pleasure and
fair. You
honor.
made me cry every week.
I mean, I just am so blessed that I get to do this and work with the most incredible women and show them what they're capable of and show them that they're enough and that there's nothing wrong with them. It's like the best gift ever because it just makes you even more powerful in this world. So thank you as well.